how can we look at education and how can colleges and universities transform for the modern world in this sort of ever changing sort of landscape of higher education. And I think that there almost seems in a way sometimes like there's almost two competing ideas, right? We've got institutions that want to support student success and the idea of us being able to encourage failure, and support students through that, and say this messaging, which I think is really important, of majors don't matter as much as a future career, but equally those same institutions have targets and metrics to stand on based off of student retention, graduation, what their most popular majors are, and advertising those same things at the same time. I guess as we're sort of wrapping the conversation up, what would your sort of key message to higher education professionals be that are wrestling with this ever changing sort of student dynamic and their own sort of KPIs and things as an institution? How do you marry that up?
I think this has to happen on two levels. One, it has to happen with that metric of student success and satisfaction. So the KPI is more appropriate to the outcome you're looking for. So be careful about how you're defining success just as much as how they do it. Um, because as you well know, if eh, your your path will be determined by where you want to go. So thinking about success in a way that's textured, and then setting some priorities, right? So because resources are not infinite, and tuition, which is already exorbitant, cannot keep growing in this sort of self-destructive pursuit of student support services in order to be successful, right? So this is starting to create a kind of unsustainable financial model for higher ed when it was already struggling with that, right? So sure, you can triple the number of counselors you have, but now you've tripled your budget. Um, and now you have to pay for that. And who's going to pay for that? So there's a lot of tension there. The good thing, of course, is that higher ed is filled with really smart people. They just have to know that it's not enough to advocate for student success. You have to do it in a way that's sustainable. So that's a complicated conversation. The second level is about the future of higher ed itself. And this is where college presidents and politicians and other people who have a stake in the big picture really need to be a lot more flexible and innovative. Um, I think that just shoring up the 4-year model, throwing more resources at it, as I just said, is not going to work forever. Uh, and so they're going to need to start thinking about the model itself. For example, in a 4-year program, do you really need a major to occupy, say, two-thirds of your requirements? International studies, instead of taking up all of that time, let's say it took up half of what it does now, and the other half was spent on building skills that were much more practical and applicable in the market, where we married the concept of an internship, which is very common, with an apprenticeship, which is more immediately practical. Why do we have one set of colleges that do practical apprenticeship like things and another that do purely intellectual things? These are two good ideas. They could be married to each other in one program, but we're not really thinking that imaginatively. Um, so I think higher ed has a lot of work in front of it, and because of demographic changes, technological changes, AI, et cetera, Financial challenges, no one wants to spend $100,000 a year on a college education. It's just staggering. We're about to head off a cliff here, and I think that this requires a lot more imaginative thinking to avoid the plunge.